welcome to Monday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where I've been asked to have a look at a new puzzle called Parity Cave by Dorlir. Now, Dorlir is a constructor I admire greatly, and I think is a maths professor in real life. And look at this grid. I mean, this is quite ludicrous. We get a given digit. I suppose we should be grateful for that. And we get two lines. But these lines are parity lines, which I think means that the parity switches as you move from cell to cell along it. And there's some rule about shading, and that's it. That is literally it. It's bonkers, completely bonkers. I know nothing else about it other than it's been recommended very heavily, very quickly as well. I think this is a very new puzzle. But yeah, this is what we're going to attempt in today's video. I've got a couple of things to mention first. I'll start off with something quite incredible, really. Brian Zvar, I want to say, I might be mispronouncing your surname, Brian, over there in the US, is doing a PhD in information science. And one of the assignments that Brian undertook as part of the PhD was to analyse all of the puzzles on Logic Masters Germany with a view to discovering who is the hardest setter of Sudoku puzzles, who's the highest rated setter of Sudoku puzzles, and which Sudoku variants are the most commonly featured over on Logic Masters Germany. Now, I know that you're all going to be fascinated by the results. I mean, I found the results interesting, definitely interesting, surprising, maybe a tad in places. But okay, I'm going to reveal firstly who the hardest setter, according to Brian's research, was. Potato Head. It's Potato Head. Some of you may have thought it would be Phistomefel. Well, Phistomefel is right up there, and depending on how Brian sort of defined the categories, Phistomefel could be viewed as the highest one, but actually it was Potato Head. So Potato Head, that's an interesting honour. The hardest setter out there. Next, let's look at the best Sudoku setter. So there's a graph here from Brian's paper that he sent me. So the highest average rating, I think grade A puzzles are defined as those with a rating of higher than 90%. So Jesper, 98% average rating. Well, Jesper is an absolute genius. Doesn't surprise me. Nevario, how lovely to see Nevario so high. Mixo, Pietato, Zetamath. I mean, these are all names that we are all familiar with, I've no doubt. And I think the bottom graph is if you had to have published at least 90 puzzles that had generated ratings, which is a huge number. And there we see Richard Stolk rising to the top there, the Sudoku professor. Math Pesto as well in there. Fantastic. So yeah, I just found it interesting. I think the most common Sudoku variant was something that had a killer Sudoku in it, for those of you interested in that. Anyway, Brian, thank you for sending that. I did find it interesting. Next, Chants of Sennaar that we've been streaming. We're going to be streaming again 10 o'clock UK time tomorrow night. We'd love to have your company. I think it's our fourth time going through the game. I've no idea how well it will go. We shall see. So yeah, I'll try and remember to put a link on the screen to that. We've got our Kickstarter live. Do check that out if you haven't had a chance to look. There's only, I think, 10 days left now. And it will be, we're going to create the perfect puzzle Christmas present. And over on Patreon, just a couple of things to mention there. We've got my solve of Totally Normal Cat's Broken Secrets, which is a very long video of a very hard puzzle. And thanks to those of you who've commented on that video already so kindly, much appreciated. And we've also got, of course, the Skunkworks Snackdoku Fest. 100 Snackdokus. Snackdokus are 4x4 puzzles intended to only take a couple of minutes each. That's an absolutely gorgeous pack. 50 different setters have contributed to it. So a lovely Christmas present over there on Patreon as well. I've got till the 20th to enter the competition for that one. Now, some birthdays as well. I've got a few birthdays and announcements to make, some of which are late. Not all of them late because of my fault, I will add. But a birthday today. Karen, you turned 57 today. And I know this, not just, well, I know this because Anne wrote to us in particular. But Karen, you should also watch Mark's video later on this evening. That would be my recommendation. I hope you get chocolate cake. Many happy returns. Now, the next one is a weird one. It was an announcement for a 45th wedding anniversary to Jacob and Lucy over there in the Netherlands. And this is from your eldest son, Jacco. And it happened on the 29th of November, but it went to our spam folder, and I don't know why. But thankfully, Jacco got in contact with me on Instagram, and I saw that message just now. So I wanted to wish Jacob and Lucy many congratulations on well, that's a secret number of years that you've been married, and I hope you had a great celebration with cake, of course. Next, Alice, it's your birthday today, and I know this because Andrew wrote to us and said that you'd appreciate a shout out, but I have searched high and low. I've spent about the last hour looking for the information about this birthday, and I cannot find it. It's in my calendar, so I don't know how that info got to us, but Alice, I hope you have a great birthday. And then 2 birthdays that are late, but neither are my fault. Plum over there in New Mexico turned 20 yesterday, and I gather was having chocolate cake after a cow tongue dinner. That sounds intriguing. I don't think I've ever had cow's tongue. Actually, maybe I have actually. I'm not sure. But Plum, I hope you had a great day yesterday. And then Ellie also turned 20 yesterday, and she grew up watching her grandfather solve Sudoku, and is a maths student now. And Ellie, I hope you had a great birthday yesterday with, of course, cake. And that's all the news. So why don't we turn our attention to solving Dorlir's puzzle, Parity Cave. These are the rules of this very sparse grid. Normal Sudoku rules apply. So we have to put the digits 1 to 9 once each in every row, every column, and every 3x3 box. Shade some cells such that all shaded cells are orthogonally connected, and all unshaded cells are orthogonally connected. Now, a 2x2 area may be fully shaded or unshaded in this puzzle, so it's not quite yin-yang rules. So let's stop there and check that we understand what that means. I'm going to do the classic shape I always do to indicate an orthogonal, or this sort of orthogonal connectivity. So if I make those squares green, and these squares yellow maybe, This is an example of how the shading in this puzzle could work. And that's because all of the green cells connect to all of the other green cells via cells that are connected across an edge. So what we don't have is, for example, that situation, where this little green cell, it does touch these two, but it only touches those two at a point. So this one is not part of an orthogonally connected group. And that's why we don't have cells like this as green. So all of these greens, if I double click the greens, you can see they just form an area. If I double click the yellows, they form an area of orthogonally connected cells. So this is a potential shading. Now, actually in this puzzle, it's slightly more laissez-faire than the normal yin-yang shading, because we could have this cell, I think, as shaded and make a 2x2 of shaded greens and shaded greens here. There's nothing to prevent that. So that's an oddity of these rules from Dorlir. Now, this is where it gets strange. For each n, row n and box n both have exactly n shaded cells, which contain exactly the digits from 1 to 9. So let's pick box 5. What that's saying is, so that's for the number 5, row 5, which is that row, and box 5, which is this box, have exactly 5 shaded cells. So in row 5 there are 5 shaded cells, in box 5 there are 5 shaded cells, and the shaded cells that we place in this box and this row are formed of the numbers 1 to 5. That's a very, very weird rule. It's very interesting, but it's weird. And then it says adjacent cells along the red line have different parities. Parity is, of course, oddness and evenness. So if one digit is odd, the next is even. So if this is odd, this is even, then this would be odd, etc. along the lines. And that's all the rules. So do have a go. There is definitely a miracle-esque quality to this one. The way to play is to click the link under the video. But now I get to play. Let's get cracking. And as I read the rules, the only thing that was occurring to me is that, well, no, there are two things. I don't know whether to start with... Well, let's start with 9. What would happen if n was 9? Then row 9... Well, what we're being told is that row 9 and box 9 have 9 shaded digits in them. So we can... What should we use for? Should we use grey and green, maybe? So these are all shaded. These are all shaded. We can't do yin-yang on this because we could have a 2 by 2 of shaded cells. But I think before we go any further, one thing I should talk about, which I think still applies here, is checkerboard logic. So whenever you get one of these puzzles where you have to shade via orthogonal connections, it is always worth considering whether you can have patterns like this in the grid. And I think even though we can't have a 2 by 2 here, we still cannot have a checkerboard pattern. Because of the requirement that I connect the shaded and the unshaded cells together. Because let's try and connect these unshaded cells together. And however I do that, whatever route I take to do that, you can now see that this cell cannot form an orthogonally connected group with the other grey cell because it can't get out from this sort of lagoon of green that we've created. And it wouldn't have mattered, obviously, if we'd gone the other way. And we've gone round this way. It again doesn't matter what sort of circuitous route you take. You're going to isolate this cell in a lagoon of green, and that's not going to be good. Now, what that's going to mean in this puzzle is that we can extend that thought, no checkerboard, to the perimeter of the grid. Now, in the perimeter, how many changes of colour can we have? So, for example, could we have green, then grey, then green again? Is that possible? And the answer is no. Why is the answer no? Well, because this is just an exploded checkerboard, in effect. Because this green here has to connect to this green via an orthogonal connection. And again, it doesn't matter how you do it. You're going to isolate the top grey from the bottom grey. So you can't have a sort of exploded checkerboard, which means that the perimeter of this grid can change colour either 0 times or 1 time. What do I mean? It's either entirely grey or there's a stretch of green and then the rest of it is grey. But what we couldn't do is do that and then interpose a grey here and have a second change of colour, if you like. So now, okay, that was a long explanation of something I haven't thought through what it means in the context of this puzzle. So, I was going to say most of this box has to be shaded, and in fact most of row 8 has to be shaded. But it's more complicated, isn't it? Because in row 8, the numbers 1 to 8 are shaded. So 9 is not shaded in this row. But unlike the bottom row where I can just shade it all in, I don't know where the 9 is going to go. 3 in row 7 must be shaded. Sorry, that's been obvious from the start. Right, okay. So maybe I've got to think about low numbers then. Right, so there's in box 1 and row 1. There is a 1. There is a 1 that is shaded in row 1 and everything else is unshaded. So, but hang on. Yeah, okay, so a cell like that can't be shaded. Because if that's shaded, that's the only shaded cell in box 1 by the rules. And then that cell doesn't connect to these cells. So that's definitely unshaded. No, that doesn't... Let me just think about this a bit harder. Yeah, the same is true of the corner. In fact, it's more true of the corner. Because again, yes, it's also true of this cell by symmetry, isn't it? If either of these is the only shaded cell in box 1, it's surrounded by a lagoon of green and you can't get out. So both of those are unshaded. Now, that's got to be unshaded again, otherwise that's creating an island of grey in a sea of green. So this is... Now, what does green mean in terms of these lines? Nothing, does it? It's literally just a shade. Oh no, it must mean something. It means it's not 1. That's all it means. Okay, no, that's nothing. Okay. So, if that was shaded... No, that's not shaded, is it? Because I think what we need to think about then, if that's shaded... Oh no, hang on, no, that's absolutely right. If that's shaded, because the perimeter can't change colour too often, all of these have to be shaded and joined to this. And that's going to totally blow the fact that we're meant to have one shaded cell in the top row. So there's no way that doesn't work at all. Sorry, that's totally obvious as well. So this is definitely unshaded. But the same is true of this square. If that's shaded, I shade all these 3, and that breaks box 2, which is only meant to have 2 shaded cells. So that's unshaded. In fact, no, I can keep doing this, can't I? I can keep running this argument. Again, anything I shade in this top row causes a continuous sequence around the perimeter to connect to this. And I'm only allowed to shade one thing in the top row. So I can't even have this one as shaded, because again, that's going to cause two shaded things in the top row. So that's shaded, and that is actually a digit there. Oh, this is great. This has done my parity line. This is bizarre. Okay, so several things. Firstly, those have to be grey to connect up and not have changes of colour. Secondly, I think this is a 1, because we're told that when n equals 1, the 1 is the digit that is shaded in the first row. So that is a 1. 1 is odd. So this is even, this is even, this is even, and this is even along the sort of positive diagonal parity line. Ooh. Oh no, okay. I had a horrible thought then, which was that didn't I always know the parity of this line because it was on the positive diagonal? But no, I didn't. I would have done if we'd had a rule that said that the positive diagonal didn't have a repeated digit on it, because then, if that was true, you'd have had to have the odd cells spaced out like that, wouldn't you? But here we could have another 1 on the diagonal somewhere. It's just we can't have another 1 in either of these squares. Right, so sorry, these squares here therefore are 2s, 4s, 6s and 8s. Normally I would parity shade these odds and evens, but because we've got other shading going on, I think I've probably just got to fully good lift them. That square's not a 1, that square's not a 3. Oh, okay, but if that's odd, can't I can just fill in the other parity line. So these squares have to be odd now. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. That one's not 3. And these ones are even. And that one's even. So 2, 4, 6, 8. Ah, right. Look at the middle box. There are 4 even digits in Sudoku, 2, 4, 6 and 8. And they are a quadruple. So these other digits, so 3 in the middle box, has to be in one of these 2 squares by Sudoku. These are all odd digits. Yes, I am going to. I'm going to fully pencil mark that. I don't know if I'm meant to do that or not, but that's what I'm going to do. Now this digit. I can see what I'm going to get here. I think this column is just a thermometer, isn't it? I think that must be right. This is weird. This is weird, but the shaded digits in row 2 are 1 and 2, and that can't be a 1, so that must be a 2. Now the shaded digits in row 3 are 1, 2 and 3, so that must be a 3. The shaded, etc., etc. That's just iterative, isn't it? That's rather beautiful. Now, oh, hang on, I can see other things that might go on as a result of this. This is classic Dorlir. Just takes a rule set and makes something that's quite extraordinary. Oh, hang on, that's not 2 either. Yeah, in this box now, box 3, I was only meant to shade the 1, 2 and the 3, and I have. So all of those have got to be unshaded. So box 6, which is this box, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 as shaded. So I do really rather want, I probably want the 1, 2, 3 to go there, which would cause roping. So this would be 4, 5, 6. This would be 4, 5, 6. That's not 2. That's not 3. That's not 3. That's not 9. Okay, this one's come down a bit. That one's not 3. I don't see. This is why I don't like pencil marking so extensively. I'm just rubbish at it. 5 is not in any of those squares in the middle box. 6 is not in these 2 squares. 4 is not in these 2 squares. So 5 is vertical. It's in one of these 2 positions. And hang on, so what do I now know about the middle box? That's got that the digits 1 to 5 are shaded in there. Okay, maybe I don't know how to do that. I've got to put a shaded 1 in this row. That is not a shaded 1. Because if that was a shaded 1, how would it connect to its friends? Because I can't have anything more shaded in row 2, so all of these would be green, and this would have to escape through that square, and in row 3 we know only 1s, 2s and 3s are shaded, and that can't be another 1. It would repeat in its box, and it can't seem to be a 2. So this is definitely not the other shaded digit in row 2, so that is unshaded, and 1 is in one of these. 1 is in one of those 3 squares, so 1 is in one of these 3 squares, and this 1 is in box 2, so it needs to get right. So there is a 2 I'm going to claim in one of those squares. This isn't, yeah, that must be right, mustn't it? Because if this is a 1, it's shaded, it's surrounded by green cells, but it needs to connect to the rest of the grey cells. So it has to go this way, and it can't go into a 1 or a 3, so it must go into a 2. Right, so what we're now learning this is gorgeous. Right, that's what this is doing. This is what this given digit's doing. How do we get the 1, the shaded 1 in one of these squares out? How do we ever get it out? Because once you've got a 1-2 pair in any of these dominoes, there's only, well, we either have to go into a 3 in this row, because the only shaded digits in row 4 are 1, 2, 3 and 4. Well, 4's already been shaded over here, so it's not that. So it can't be a 1 or a 2 beneath a domino that contains 1 and 2. So we need a 3 in one of those squares, which this one prevents. The only other way you can get out is to go via this square. Now that square could be a shaded 1. And I don't think there's another way of getting the one that's in row 2 out. So I think we have to go this way and then do a little deviation here. And then, having done that, so this is 1, this is 2, this is 1 again. We've now got all the shaded possibles in these 3 rows, or these 2 rows. And now this square has to come here, and that square has to be 2 or 3, I'm going to say, but I think it's going to have to be 2. I sort of feel like this is going to continue. I just need to work out why. Actually, hang on, look, these are not 2 now. So 2 is in one of those 2 squares. So 2 is in one of these 2 squares. No, that's not a good thought. Come on, brain, have good thoughts. That's not that right. That's not a 1. These are not 1s or 2s. Oh, hang on. Let's just press delete. That'll get rid of those. In this row, I've still got to put a shaded 1. Okay. Sorry, I realise I've stopped talking. I can't quite see what to do. What is it? This. I feel it's this row somehow. 1, 2, or 3. Or if this goes down again, this could be 2, 3, or 4. It can't be 3, so 2 or 4. I don't know, sorry, I can't see that actually. Can we pull the same trick on this column that we did on this row? Or does maybe it doesn't work the same way, because the rule just applies to the rows, doesn't it? So we don't. But if we can identify any of these squares in terms of their colour, we'll be able to colour the rest of the perimeter up to that square. So for example, if this square was shaded, we would know these have to be shaded. This box contains I don't know, maybe it's Sudoku. Sorry, I'm not thinking very clearly about how to do this. There's a 4 and a 6 in this sequence of digits by Sudoku, with the middle boxes evens. If that's 2, that's 2. Oh, wait a minute. Right, that's not shaded. That one there is not shaded. If that's shaded, then again, by the perimeter trick, I have to do that. And those 4 cells are the entirety of the shaded cells in box 4, which has 4 shaded cells. But now this cell can't get out, because it's going to be penned in by a little inlet of green here, and it wants to go here. But that's a 6 or an 8. It's not low enough to exist as a shaded cell in row 4. So that means this cell's definitely green. That is the world's worst. It was maybe not the worst deduction in Christendom, but it's underwhelming, isn't it? Okay, alright, so I don't think I'm thinking about this clearly yet at all. It's going to therefore be... I really want to think about the way to connect this, but it doesn't feel like it's under enough pressure. What's going on in the bottom rows then? This row has got... Wait a minute. This row's got loads of... Oh, this is... Right, it's the other way round. So this row has got one unshaded digit in it, which is the digit 9. Ah. Right. So this row's got one green in it. This row has 2 greens in it, which are 8 and 9. So how could that be unshaded? If that's unshaded, it's a 9. It's the only unshaded digit in its row, and it's just surrounded by 2 shaded, so that doesn't work at all. So if that's unshaded, if that's unshaded, you've got to go up there, so it would have to go 9, 8, and then this square would have to be unshaded, which would, the only unshaded option in this row is 8, but there would be an 8 beneath it, so that is not unshaded. Gosh, this is difficult. So then, right, okay, so the 9 in this row now is quite restricted, isn't it? Probably. If that's a 9, you can't go up into an 8 because of the parity line. Yeah, that also must be shaded. In fact, maybe this is maybe I'm meant to look at the parity line. That's shaded for sure because it's lower. It's 8 or lower in the row. That one we don't know. That one we don't know. That one we don't know. Oh no, okay, that didn't work at all. That one is unshaded actually because that's a 6 or an 8 in row 4. Okay. So, oh, for goodness sake, Simon. Sorry. Right, look at box 8. That could never be an unshaded digit because that's going to be unshaded as well. And box 8, by the rule, only has one unshaded digit because it has 8 shaded digits. Sorry. So there's no way that can be unshaded. Right, so this is shaded. This is the unshaded digit. That is therefore a 9. It goes up to connect to its friends into, I want to say into an 8. I think that is right because it can't go up into a 9. And in this row it's only 8 and 9. Is this going to go up the column then? It's the same logic, isn't it? It is, sorry, the cogs are finally clicking into place. It's the same logic as we did down the column, just starting in a slightly different place. Because this digit, in this row, the unshaded digits are 7, 8 and 9. Oh, well, yeah, I think that's right. I mean, it is right. Yes. Okay. Right, and we can extend, yeah, because we have to connect the perimeter. I was wondering whether we could wiggle. We couldn't have wiggled here, because this couldn't have been a 9, but I was wondering whether we could wiggle here. But I think that point is otiose once the perimeter connects. So, yeah, this square is clearly unshaded. It clearly cannot be 9 or 8, so it is 7. This cell is clearly unshaded. It can't be 9, 8 or 7, and in that row, therefore, it must be 6. And that's just going to iterate up the column. It must just continue in that vein. So that gives us a 1 at the bottom of the grid. And that 1, that's not doing anything. Or is it? Maybe it is doing something. Hang on. That's not 4 anymore. Oh no, come on. Don't be mean, naughty puzzle. That's not 9. And I don't know. Now I'm stuck again. In this row, I have to put a 9, don't I? Oh, that's beautiful. Right, I've got something. Right, 9 is in one of those squares. But 9 has to... It's an unshaded 9. So it's a green 9, either here or here. So... And that's going to be the last unshaded cell in this row. So if this is the unshaded 9, this is shaded then. So you can see that we're going to have to poke up into box 5 to get the 9 out and get it connected to the rest of the green cells. Well, what digit is it going to see in this row that it can connect with? It can't be 7 and it can't be 9, which is going to sit beneath it. So it can only be 8, which tells you that one of these squares is an 8. In the finished puzzle, and if one of these squares is an 8, that is not an 8, so that's a 6, and that's not an 8, so that's a 2. Right, what's that done? What's that done? 2 in this row is shade. Oh, 2 in this row is not only shaded, it's not that one. So 2 is shaded. That's 3. We've got 1 to place in the row, and 4. Oh no, that's not an improvement. Oh goodness me, what's going on now? So this either goes like that or like that, but I don't know which. One of these is the 9, so these are both therefore shaded. One of these is 8. Bother, I still can't quite see it. 3 is in one of those squares by Sudoku. 3 in box 7. I really could tell I've resorted to Sudoku all of a sudden. 3 is in one of those squares. 3 is there. 3 is there. Actually, this was good. 3, I've actually got some 3s in the grid from this. 3... no, it doesn't quite extend far enough to give us all the 3s. I think we get left with an X-swing on 3s in these cells. Okay. So how do we do better? 7 here means that's a 5, so we have got another digit at least. So 5 is in one of 2 places in box 1. 5, this is a 1 by Sudoku, so there's a 1 in one of these 2. Ah, do you remember when we looked at this box we said 1, 2 and 3 were shaded? So that's shaded now. There's one of these is shaded. Ah, that feels important somehow to me. How do we do that then? I'm not sure. Oh, botheration. 7 in this box is one of these 2 squares. Whoopsie, I made one of them orange. I didn't mean to do that. So 7, right, so 5 and 7, whoopsie. 5 and 7 are a pair in box 1. Ah, I just want to... Ah, no, come on, I just want to get rid of the corner pencil marked 5. So 6 or 8 here. So we've not placed 6, 8 and 9 in this box. 6, 8 and 9. Is that going to be interesting? I don't know. 9 is in one of those squares. So 9 is in one of these squares. But we don't seem to know very much about 9s at all, unfortunately. That square is the only square in box 4 that doesn't have a pencil mark in it. That is 2. Or it's 2. It's a naked single 2. It sees 8 in the row, doesn't it? Yeah, look at this. This is quite interesting. So when you've got a box like this, which has got a lot of corner pencil marks in, it is sometimes worth asking whether this could be a naked single. And it is here, I think. It can't be 1, it can be 2, it can't be 3, it can't be 4 well, because there's a 4 in one of those, and our pencil marks tell us that. It can't be 5, 6 and 7 are ruled out, can't be 8, and it can't be 9, because we just found there's a 9 there, so that is a 2. And 2 in that row is 2 shaded? It is it's shaded, isn't it? It is, no, hang on, am I getting that wrong? No, 2 is always shaded as I go down the grid. Yeah, 2 is definitely shaded. Right, what does that mean? Well, that might be interesting. What I'm wondering now is, we've got to connect this top structure to the rest of the greys in the grid. And in this box, in box 4, 1 and 4 are the ways in which we're going to communicate this sequence to anything else. Could be the middle, but we're going to have to use the 1 and the 4 in this box to provide one of these is going to have to be a 1 or a 4, isn't it? Now, what would happen if this was not a 4? If this wasn't a 4, that would be a 4, and I don't think you could make the connection work. Because now I need a 1, I've only got 1 as the spare digit. I could connect this to 1, but then this would be isolated. I could connect that to the 1, but then both of those would be green and it wouldn't work. So I think what we're being told is that that is a 4 and it is therefore shaded. And what does that mean? So this is not 4. So now we know these digits. These are 1, 8 and 9, and one of them is shaded. And therefore that's a 6, I suppose. So we know we learn a little bit. And in this column we've not placed 6 and 7. So this is a 6, 7 pair at the base of the column. Misclicking all over the place today. This is not 6, so this is presumably a 2, 4 pair. And okay, maybe we don't know enough about that to... Well, what's going on in this row now? I feel like we've got far too many digits left in it. That can't be 8. Okay. So this square is 5 or 9 only by Sudoku. And it's not 5, that's 9. Aha! So this is 1, this is 5. Not the usual place you would end up with a 5 in a variant Sudoku. 5 very often ends up in the middle. Okay, has that done it? Or have we learnt? 9 is unshaded in this row, isn't it? So we have to be a bit careful now. Well, we've got to get that to connect to the rest of the green somehow. 2 is in one of those squares. So if 2 is there, yeah, we can still make it work. We can put the 1 here. I was wondering about how we would connect the 2s up. 1 in this row is shaded. 5 is shaded. That is row 6, so that must be true. Now, what does this mean, though? So if, hang on, if that, oh, I see, we could go 9, 8, 7. This is probably what's going to happen, isn't it? We're going to go on a long train up there. 9 and 8 in these 2 rows are definitely unshaded. And wow, 1 is in one of those 2 cells in row 8. Oh, Dorlir, what am I meant to do now? I don't know. It could. That's not 6. I've just noticed. That's 4 or 8. But that is not a pair on that diagonal because it doesn't work like that. That's not 9. Ah, that's not 9 because of this 9. So there's a 5, 7 pair in row 3. So 6, 8 and 9 are left to be placed. Can we do any magic with this? I don't know. Ah, you can't have a checkerboard, can you? No, you can't have a checkerboard. We said this right at the start. So if this was grey, we would be in checkerboard territory with that 2x2. So that's got to be green. Now, what does that tell you about the size of this? Green, it's just 1, 2, 3 and 4 that's shaded. So that can't be a 1 now. So that's 7 or 9. And okay, and where is the shaded 1 in this row? It can't be there. So it's got to be here. Ah, that feels important. So that's shaded. That cannot be a 2. Because if it's 2, it's shaded. It's a shaded 2 in this box to give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 as shaded. And this is unshaded. And it can't get out. So this must be the 2. That's shaded. These squares are 7, 8 pair. And unshaded. Oh look, well, that's what we thought was going to happen. That's a 2 by Sudoku. That's a 2. That's a 1 by Sudoku. So this 2 is doing some work. 2 and 4 can go in. That's no longer a 4. That's a 6 apparently. So that's 6. That's 7. That seems to have to be 5, which puts 5 here and 4 here. Oh yeah, because we said we were going to get roping if this was 1, 2, 3, didn't we? So this is 7, 8, 9 at the top. So that's 8, that's 9, that's 7, that's 7, that's 5, that's 8, that's 9. This is now a 6, 8 pair. This, that's a 5. This is 6, this is 4. Just again, we're just unwinding our ropes here. This is a 5 and a 7, which we can put in. That's become a 9. So the central cell is a 1, which, okay, we need to think about that in a moment, because that must be shaded in its row. Oh, bother. Oh, well, the 2. The 2 is shaded, and it has to connect to its friends. So that's shaded, and that must be the 3. Because it's 7 and 9 are too big to be shaded in row 5. And now we've got a 7, 8, 9 triple. Oh, I see. Okay. We've got 4 and 8 still to place. But I think we're on the right track now. We've got 3, 4 and 9 into 3, 4 and 9 into this row. That is not 3. Or that's a 4. It's not 9 either. That's a 3. That's a 9. Are we going to get a oh no 3s in the corner today. That's a 7. Look, that's a 7, 8, 8, 9. What are these squares? 9 has to go here. Ah, but 9 is unshaded. That's lovely. So this has to get out. So it has to get out through 8 in this row, and that's unwinding the 8 and the 4. That's probably a Sudoku way of doing that. But so look, it goes. Well, no, not literally. That is a shaded 4 in this box. 8 and 9 have been shaded, so that's have been unshaded. You know what I mean, in row 7. So this has to be shaded and has to be a 6, and that's going to do the top look. So that's 6. That's 8. That's 8, and we need to put 4 and 7 in. That's really, really remarkable. That is remarkable. So we get a sort of skyscraper pattern in the grid of shaded cells. It does have a miracle quality, doesn't it? It's bizarre. It's bizarre that rule set can yield a unique solution just by interposing onto it some parity lines. It feels most mysterious. And we did need, actually, I did need to use some yin-yang trickery. Like, if you weren't aware of the checkerboard thing and you didn't think about the perimeter, I reckon that would have been quite difficult. But, on the other hand, if you could think more clearly than I did about the effect of that on row 1, And where else was I stuck? Oh, yeah, seeing that there was a symmetry between the way column 9 worked and once we'd worked out that we had to think about where 9 went in row 8 and realising that 9 couldn't be here because it would cause 8 to be above it and both would be unshaded in box 8, which could only have one unshaded cell. That was quite crucial. Anyway, brilliant again from Dorlir, who is a fantastic constructor. Let me know in the comments whether you had a go and let me know how you got on. I enjoy the comments, especially when they're kind, and we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.